Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Thursday, November the 14th, which makes this the news for Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024, day 994 or 5. There's a little confusion about that. I think it's day 994. As I was reading today that the 19th will be 1,000 days of this war. The peeps are coming in. Hey, Chris Carter. Hey, Hobo. How you guys doing? Hey, Julian. Hey, PH. MT. Sharon. Good evening, Steve-O. Anthony. Fitz. How you guys doing? Richard Prexis. Blue Ariel Silk. And everybody can thank Blue Ariel Silk, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Blue Ariel Silk joined the Patreon at a level that I thank her with live sponsorship once a month. And so this is your sponsorship for November, Laurel. Hey, Arn. Hey, Bobby. How's everybody doing? Hey, Jeff. That ongoing Patreon support makes all the difference in the world to me, guys. Patreon support is still down, and there is a lot of Patreon-only content being produced now. So I really do encourage you to join the Patreon. Join the Patreon, and in this very uncertain time, where we don't know what's happening next, the support is deeply appreciated. We got a lot going on. All right, so let's get started then. On the subject of a lot going on, boy, it was a loud night in Kyiv last night. We saw the first combined drone and missile attack against Kyiv. It persisted for over 2 hours. Air defense was active. There were many loud booms as 4 ballistic missiles were taken out over the city, 2 Iskander-Ms and 2 Kh-101s, not to mention about 30 drones. Now, altogether, the Russians sent 90 drones last night, 37 of which were intercepted by air defense, 47 of which were taken out with electronic warfare, and 2, my favorite one of all, returned to sender. 1 sent back to Belarus, 1 sent back to Russia. Now, while the Iskanders and the Kh-101s were intercepted last night, what got through were the S-300s. Those S-300s are sitting right on the border with Sumy. Their flight time is like 3 minutes. It's nothing. There's no time to respond. And the Ukrainians don't have a technology solution to intercept those goddamn S-300s coming from right across the border. And so they continue to rage havoc on the Sumy region. Now, we've seen now, like over the weekend, it was over 300 drones targeted across the country, but many of them targeted at Kyiv. It appears that what we are seeing is as when winter comes on, as the population is most vulnerable to electrical outages and interruptions of gas and utilities, that the Russians are stepping up their attacks on the city, particularly the capital city of Kyiv. And the idea, of course, is to make the people in the capital suffer. And it appears that the same strategy that we've seen the Kremlin employ over the last 2 winters of trying to freeze grandmothers in their beds is how they're going to handle it again this year. They're going to try to knock the lights out. They're going to try to freeze everybody in their beds. Unless, of course, Donald Trump comes along and solves the whole thing in 24 hours, like he's supposed to do, right? Come on, Trumpers, where's your guy? He's supposed to fix it all, isn't he? The U.S. Now, contrary to what Kyiv has recently said, Zelensky has recently said that less than 10% of the promised U.S. aid has arrived. However, the Department of Defense spokesperson Pat Ryder reported that 83% of all munitions that had been pledged have arrived, have been delivered. 67% of air defense promised has been delivered. And 60% of firepower capabilities have been delivered. Now, it's not 100%, right? But there's substantial portions of the committed, of the various packages and commitments that were made to Kyiv between April and October of this year. It's significant. I don't think that you can say that it's not. So if this is accurate, what the Biden administration is saying is that Ukraine is armed enough to keep up the fight through 2025. Now, I don't know that to be true, but that is what the Biden administration is suggesting. For his part, Anthony Blinken, in a press conference today, said that the Biden administration was doing all it could to get the bureaucratic roadblocks out of the way and get the aid off of the loading docks in Quantico and to Ukraine. He also said that President Biden would ensure that of the $61 billion that got passed in April, there's only $7 billion left that hasn't been allocated. And of that $7 billion, Blinken said it will be committed to Ukraine. Now, I don't know what that means. Does that mean that they're going to make the commitment soon? We're going to hear about it soon. And so then it'll be on the books and Biden can get it transferred or whatever it is. I don't really know what he means by that, or whether that $7 billion isn't still in jeopardy if it hasn't been allocated by the time that Trump becomes president, or even if he becomes president at this point. The Pentagon also, in a separate briefing by Pentagon spokesperson Patel, said that the DOD can confirm the presence of 10,000 North Korean troops in Kursk. Now, we still don't know how those troops are going to function, if they can function. They've got no practical combat experience. The country hasn't been in a combat situation in 2 generations. So they are an untested element that apparently is mostly obsessed with pornography now that they have access to the internet. And there was a video on Telegram today of a North Korean soldier in his bunk. The Russians were making fun of him. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Now, we are already now they're eating the cats and the dogs in Kursk. They're eating the cat. I have a funny thing to say about that, about Kursk, coming right up here. So Trump has started to announce his hopeful appointees and cabinet members, right? And I don't know about you, but it just makes me shudder. There is the threat I'm going to call it a threat. Trump is threatening to appoint a peace envoy to organize talks with Russia and Ukraine, according to Fox News. So according to Fox News, Trump is going to appoint a very senior, very seasoned, well-respected international diplomat. I'm thinking Hulk Hogan is probably up for the job, right? To broker peace between Russia and Ukraine. Send the Hulk. So we don't know who that person is, but we should expect an announcement soon. Now, in rather stunning news, the Fox and Friends weekend host is the new SecDef, the new Secretary of Defense, for the greatest military the world has ever known. The head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a man responsible for a budget that is nearly $1 trillion, a man with no senior military leadership experience. Though legitimately, it is certainly valid to point out that he is a veteran. We are grateful for his service. He was mobilized National Guard in Afghanistan for 2 tours. He's got, I believe, 2 Bronze Stars, right? Certainly a man worthy of our respect. But not as Secretary of Defense. Especially not when he says incredibly stupid things right off the bat. He is a well-known NATO critic. He derides wokeness in the military. And he referred to Ukraine as Putin's "give me back my shit" war, which I really think highlights the level of understanding and nuance that this conflict has for the Trump administration. Putin's "give me back my shit" war was how he summed it up. He went on to say that he doesn't want American arms and intervention, are you ready for this? To make Putin feel like he's on his heels. Mr. Hegseth is concerned that sad, mad, bad Vlad is going to be feeling like he's being pushed around, the poor baby. Holy fuck, we are doomed. I mean, are we doomed with these motherfuckers or what? Unbelievable. Now, look, that is just awful. It's insanity to me of the worst sort. Mike Walls is a little bit better, I have to confess. When we look at Mike Walls, he's the pick for National Security Advisor, right? And he is advocating for less U.S. aid to Ukraine and more from Europe. He thinks this is Europe's problem. He thinks you liberals don't understand not to mess with Russia. That's right. Just let Russia grape and torture and murder and commit genocide, and don't dare mess with them. They're a paper bear. Russia's on its knees right now. We'll talk about some of the reasons why coming up here. So anyway, this Mike Waltz guy, he's not a friend of Ukraine, but dig it. He may manage to get something that the wishy-washy, weak Biden White House failed to do. And he is talking about long-range strikes for Ukraine, taking the gloves off Ukraine. I got to tell you, I am no Trump fan, as you well know. I am a long-haired, tree-hugging hippie. There is no doubt about that. However, if Trump gets done what Biden was afraid to do, I'd be very happy about it. I would be very happy about it. I got to tell you. Now, now this goes to the point, though, that we're getting these mixed messages from the Trump administration already, and they're not even in the office yet. And so we don't know what's going to happen, and we should be prepared for the worst, in my opinion. But this guy, Waltz, the National Security Advisor, does seem to be advocating for long-range strikes inside of Russia. Take the gloves off. He's also advocating for enforced sanctions regimes. Make the sanctions matter. Punish those that are avoiding them or making money by helping the Russians avoid them. Now, this was my favorite one, I got to tell you. Though I am personally not a fan, I think that there's many better ways to do it. But in this instance, Trump, as we know, is a big fan of drill, baby, drill. Increase oil and gas production in the U.S. Flood the market with it. Bring the price of energy down for everybody. Drive a global renaissance in the economy, right? I'm all for that. And bringing that price down will bankrupt the Kremlin. And that's exactly what Mike Waltz said. He made it very clear that this economic warfare was the way to go. So let's hope that let's hope that he's legitimate, right? That he really believes this. You're not wrong, Bobby, that oil drilling is not the answer. You're not wrong, pal. However, in the short term for this situation, let's look on the bright side. It would bankrupt the Kremlin. And then 4 years from now, we got to figure out how to go green again. And the only way to do that is get these climate deniers out of office. That's the only way to do it. But in the short term, Bobby, bankrupting the Kremlin is the best upside. Look, the administration's already bought by big oil. Trump went to the oil billionaires and said, give me $1 billion and I'll be drill, baby, drill. So he's already bought by them. The next 4 years are going to see a lot of leasing, a lot of opportunities open up for that business. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Okay, so now when we think about the front line, let's take a look at the front line. Kupiansk is under pressure. The Russians are pushing, and they're moving in on Kupiansk. In Kursk, get this. This shit, you cannot make this shit up. So today on Russian TV, they announced the glorious liberation of Glushkovo. The glorious Russian army has repelled the evil Nazi invaders from Glushkovo and returned it to the heart of Mother Russia. There's only one small problem with this story. Not one Ukrainian ever set foot in Glushkovo. The lines are 15 miles, right, about 22 kilometers from Glushkovo. No Ukrainian ever set foot in Glushkovo. Why is this story going out that Glushkovo has been liberated? I'll tell you why. Because after 3 months after the evacuation, knowing that Glushkovo is safe, that the front is stable and it's 20 miles away, people have been going home. And you know what they find when they get the fuck home back to their little apartment or home in Glushkovo? It has been looted. The whole city's been looted. Every apartment, every house, they've systematically gone through and they've stolen everything that wasn't nailed down. Now, if the Ukrainian army wasn't in Glushkovo, which army did the looting? I leave that to your deductive reasoning. I mean, it's really there. Now, the first news reports of this were all about, oh, the people should be grateful that they've been looted by the army. The army saved them. Then it turned into the Glushkovo has been liberated story, right? Start pointing the fingers at the Ukrainians. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No, Sergey, they were in Russia, so these people didn't have toilets either. All right. So that is funny. The Russian army in Kursk on the road out of Kornevo, which, by the way, is the road that goes to the only bridge that the Ukrainians didn't blow. Again, I don't think this is a coincidence. I think that Syrskyi is a brilliant tactician who uses the terrain. And he has funneled the Russians down the one hard-top road that they knew they could move on at this time of the year. He has funneled them down there. He has put his artillery on the heights overlooking that road, and they are in the kill zone. 29 armored vehicles came down that road yesterday. A whole battalion. None of them went home. Neither did the 200 men that were with them. It's not a mistake. And these are some of Russia's best VDV troops. Specifically the 110th Marine Brigade. There are now over 100 vehicles, armored vehicles and tanks, all along that road from Koronevo down to Lubiamivka. Okay, now everybody knows, I reported this last night, right? That it appears, we believed that the Russians had blown the dam on the Korkova reservoir with the obvious intention of flooding out the Ukrainian-controlled area and being able to take that over, right? That very clearly, that's what would be flooded, the Ukrainian-controlled area. Russian TV today, now we made the assumption that it was the Russians that blew it, but today, I swear to God, the Russians just love putting the video of their war crimes on the TV and the internet. They just love it. Oh, are we summarily executing these prisoners contrary to the Geneva Convention? Let's put it on Telegram. Oh, are we teaching kids to use drones by hunting civilians in Kherson? Let's film it and put it on Telegram. Oh, are we blowing up a dam in contravention to the extension of the Geneva Convention Accords 1977? Well, let's take video of the airplane dropping the glide bomb that hits the dam. And then let's put it on the fucking news. It's unbelievable. These fucking guys, they provide the evidence of their own war crimes to the world. And they flaunt it. They flaunt it. The good news here is that the glide bomb didn't quite do the job. The dam did not burst. The dam is damaged. The Volcha River is up 1.2 meters. That's about 3.5 feet. There are a couple of towns downstream that are in danger of flooding, of the Volcha coming over its banks and flooding those towns. But it is not the disaster that it could have been. Now, of course, if the Russians wake up tomorrow and decide to hit it with a couple more glide bombs, that'll change real fucking fast. But right now, they have created a very tense and evolving situation. I'm unfamiliar with the construction of the dam. I don't know whether or not it is at risk of widening the gap as the water continues to flow. That would be a concern if it's an earthen dam especially. But at this time, it is not the environmental disaster that it easily could have been. That's the thing with these guys, is that they are reckless. They are reckless with the environment that we all have to share. And that is a problem. November 7th, back on November 7th, I reported that the Russians had lost a Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopter down in Crimea, right? But we didn't know what the circumstances were. Today, it's being confirmed by the Russians, mind you, not by the Ukrainians. So take this with a pinch of salt. The Russians are saying that it was down by a Ukrainian FPV drone. Now, again, we're getting that confirmation from the Russians. So while it's certainly possible, because God knows the Ukrainians have put out 20 videos of them taking helicopters out with FPV drones now. They've designed an FPV drone specifically to hit the tail rotor of a $15 million helicopter and put it in the ground. It's amazing. It's amazing. But apparently the Russians are saying it was an FPV drone hit. They are not saying that it was pilot error or that it was a technical malfunction. Which, given the problems they got to be having getting parts, I would expect, right, the Rand Corporation report last year said that we should expect the Russians to lose between 60 and 70 aircraft, fixed wing and rotor, over the next year just from equipment failures because they don't have what they need to maintain them. It's a problem for them. We saw prime examples of how the Russian web of corruption leads to the failure of infrastructure in the Russian Federation and in Russian-held territories. Because in Crimea, we saw another bridge collapse. Remember, the Russians have been in charge in Crimea for 10 years now. And so we saw another major bridge collapse. And then in Ekaterinburg, Russia today, we saw the hot water pipes burst and send scalding hot water into the streets. There's a kilometer-long river of boiling water in the middle of Ekaterinburg, and nobody has hot water. Now, for the Americans in the House, it is worth pointing out that hot water and heat are centralized here. So you might have a plant that produces all of the hot water for an entire town. Or in the case of a large city like Ekaterinburg, you have 3. But everybody is dependent on the same source, boy. It is crazy, crazy. So that Soviet-era infrastructure is falling apart. And even now, in just the first weeks of winter, the residents of Ekaterinburg and Crimea are suffering because of the lack, because they steal everything for themselves. These guys at the top, they steal everything for themselves, and the bridges don't get fixed. The hot water pipes don't get fixed. Nothing gets fixed. Now, this is a very controversial kind of thing, and I personally have mixed feelings about it, but the Ukrainians have carried out numerous execution-style hits on known war criminals in this thing. And there was one today. Valery Trankovsky, head of the 41st Missile and Boat Brigade, stationed at Russia's Black Sea HQ, and noted war criminal who directed countless missile attacks against Ukrainian civilians, was eliminated by a car bomb in Crimea today. Now, this is a guy who controlled the missile ships that were in the Black Sea before Ukraine eliminated them all, that would fire missiles into Ukraine and hit civilian targets and unalived civilians. If I'm not mistaken, he was head of the 41st Missile and Boat Brigade at the time of the Mariupol theater hit, where several hundred Ukrainian civilians had taken shelter, and the Russians hit it with a missile from a ship in the Black Sea, burying whole families in the rubble. So I don't have any sympathy for Mr. Trankovsky. Okay, now, on the subject of the Russian economy, first of all, the ruble is in fucking free fall. It's lost 20% of its value since August 6th. It's now, the last I saw it was 98.68, if I'm not mistaken, 98.68 rubles to the dollar. So the ruble is worth a penny. It's very close to that magic 100 to 1 number that the Russian people hate. They hate it when it's at that number. It's a problem. But in addition to that, the signs that the economy is cracking are all around. There is an increasingly growing chorus of distress from the Kremlin's biggest business gremlins. They are screeching about impending economic catastrophe. Rostec CEO Sergei Chemezov said today that AutoVAZ, these are the guys that make the Lada, right, Russia's largest automaker, is facing bankruptcy without a substantial government loan on they are currently 1 billion US in debt, or 100 billion rubles in debt. And because the core interest rate in Russia is now 21%, the interest on their debt is killing them. It is eating up all of the profits. And that's the downside to what the central bank has been doing to try to control the ruble by raising interest rates. Now Russian business can't be profitable. And we're seeing that happen in all kinds of sectors. Let's see. It is signaling that it will need a government bailout. Just like Russia's largest real estate developer signaled last week, they too are on the verge of bankruptcy. With interest rates so high, the company is being forced to allocate all its earnings to cover the interest payments. Now, that is happening also in the airline business, but get this, because there's a special little karmic fuck you in this story of the airline businesses. So, Russian media outlet Izvestia is reporting that about 36 airlines, accounting for 1 in 4 flights in Russia, 26% of all Russian business, are facing bankruptcy next year. The airlines, so what you got to understand about this is that airlines don't own their planes, right? They tend to lease them. They don't tend to own them. They tend to lease them. Well, when Russia invaded Ukraine, it passed a law. Again, the ruble was in free fall. Central bank had to do something about it. The legislature had to do something about it. So the legislature passed a law that said Western airline companies that are leasing us planes must accept payment in rubles. Well, fuck all, said Western airline companies. No, that's not how this works. And we're not doing that. Well, this led the Russians to basically steal the planes from the leasing companies, right? They said, okay, well, if you don't want our rubles, then we're not going to pay you. And we're just going to keep the planes. Okay, but you have no service contracts and you can't get brand parts, which is a real problem when it comes to putting 300 people in the air and knowing that they're going to come down safe. You want the branded parts. So I'm still amazed that we haven't had a real airline catastrophe in Russia yet. I am amazed by that. But given that they have now cannibalized what I understand to be close to 54% of the commercial fleet in order to keep the other 46% of it running. I mean, I don't hope that for anybody, Sergey, but it just seems it can't go on forever. Okay, so get this. This is the situation, right? You have these airline companies. They have these planes leased. They stop making the lease payments. You would think they would be doing good, right? That's a big chunk of change to put out there. The only problem is the cost of everything in Russia is skyrocketing. The lease payments have gone into just daily operational costs and fuel, because fuel is way up too. And so any profit that they might have accrued by not making the lease payments has gone right out the door because of inflation. But it gets better. You ready for this? As of 2025, all of those lease payments that they didn't make, the Russian government is going to write them all off. Guess what happens then? They become a tax liability. They become like profit, right? Like, oh, you didn't make those payments. Well, then you basically had that money, so we consider that profit, and we're going to tax you at a 25% rate on it. So now you got, what, 2-3 years worth of loan payments, lease payments, and you're looking at a tax bill for 25% of them. 36 Russian airlines will be bankrupted by this. Small to mid-range airlines are going to be bankrupted by this. And it's not going to have a good effect on the rest of the industry. They're going to be looking at the same kinds of problems. Okay. The EU is preparing its 15th round of sanctions packages against Russia, aiming to strengthen measures ahead of the 1000th day of the war, November 19th. Russia is increasingly hiding its economic data from us so that we don't know what's going on. But one thing that we do get is mortgage insurance purchases, right? Private mortgage insurance, PMI. Some of you are familiar with it. You pay it. The applications for private mortgage insurance are down 52% year over year because people can't afford the interest rates. They can't afford homes. New home sales were down in October by 62%. 62%. So the fact that PMI is down 52% tells you that about 10% of Russians have the 20% down payment you need to avoid private mortgage insurance. That's about what that tells us. And finally, I have talked many times about Ksenia Karelina, who is an American citizen, a ballet dancer, and I think a dental hygienist, because she's 32, so you can't really be a ballet dancer anymore at that age, right? So she's also a dental hygienist. And she went home to visit her grandmother, who was in Russia. She was arrested because she had made a $50 donation to the Ukrainian armed forces. She was charged with treason, and today she was sentenced to 12 years in a penal colony. 12 years hard labor, that's still a thing over there, in a Russian penal colony somewhere north of the Arctic Circle. Now, it has nothing to do with the $50 donation. She is an example of hostage diplomacy. She is an American who is being held illegitimately by the Russian government, and so she becomes leverage. When we pick up somebody that they want bad enough back, they'll trade her for him, and we'll get her home. But in the meantime, she could be looking at 12 years of the worst kind of nightmare you could imagine. All right. We have about 20 minutes left. So, guys, big thanks to the moderator team, who are the best moderators on the Tickety Talk: Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, Jay, and Travis. Big thanks to Blue Ariel Silk, who is the sponsor of tonight's live and works hard to do a lot of good for Ukraine. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Alexievich archive and the Discord server. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group over on the Book of Faces, and to Vanetta Larrett, who has our Google Doc share, where you can get letters to Joe Biden urging him to take the gloves off. Don't leave it for Trump to take the gloves off Ukraine and let them hit Russia. You do it before you go. And by the way, get the rest of the shit here so that the Ukrainians can keep it up. Because the Ukrainians are not going to stop. They're not going to stop. I find it, Trump's peace plan, whatever, is a non-starter for everybody. There is nobody, including his buddy Putin, that is going to agree to that shit. Not what we've seen. Maybe that's why he's sending the peace envoy. I don't know. As Attorney General Matt Gaetz, are you kidding me? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Holy shit. So maybe this is a time to promote my new drug. I've invented a new drug. It's called Fuckatol. With Fuckatol, you don't worry about anything. With a little bit of Fuckatol, it's all going to be all right. Pick up your Fuckatol in fine pharmacies everywhere. Unbelievable. Gaetz has been Gates has been, what's the word when something seems plausible? Has been plausibly accused of, I guess, trafficking. I think was the actual charge. I believe that he's accused of having taken minors out of the country for the purposes of drugs and sex, allegedly. Allegedly. Is he really putting RFK as this Secretary of Health and Human Services? I mean, oh, it is a joke, PT, but it's not a joke. Good night, Martin. Was it out of state? I thought it was to the Bahamas. I thought they went from Miami to the Bahamas. I thought it was another country. It's the whole thing. You know, guys, I'm sorry because I don't know how many times did I sit here and say, oh, Trump is done. Forget it, Trump is over. And I got it so wrong. I'm really questioning everything I'm doing. I mean, I can't believe that America reelected that piece of shit. Buckeye Girl, do you think that that's what went wrong? Do you think people just thought, oh, she's going to win, so I don't have to go out and vote? Because really, people keep talking about it as a landslide, but it was not a landslide. It was less than 100,000 votes in Michigan. It was about 100,000 in Wisconsin. It was 60 in Nevada. It wasn't, altogether, I think it was 4.5 million out of what, 140 million cast? So 4% or 4 million, call it 5 million. I mean, 10% would be 14 million. So like 3%. Squeaked it out by 3%. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I do not know. Yeah, Dark Irish, that bothers me the most. 15 million people stayed home. Jill Stein didn't get anything. They got nothing, the two independent candidates. That couldn't have affected anyone. Well, I don't know how Starlink could be involved because voting machines are not connected to the internet. Right? They are standalone devices by definition. They can't be connected to anything. Otherwise, they're susceptible to rigging. So it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, why isn't Trump contesting this election? You had to vote by paper this time. Did you change areas or did you show up and you weren't registered and you had to get a provisional ballot? Oh, Louis DeJoy, he is a problem. Well, that's a real thing. If you can check to see that your vote was counted, check to see. No, did you really get 700,000? Can somebody fact check that for me? You got to do paper. Every one of those electronic machines should have a paper backup, right? You should fill out your paper, run it through the machine. But I know a lot of them are just on screens these days. Log into vote.org and it directs you to your state ballot tracker. Every state is different. Yeah. So guys, the holidays are coming up. I would really appreciate it if some of you for Christmas might join the Patreon. Things are very, like you guys know, there's no money in this, right? Like I'm not making money. Anybody can look at my Patreon and know that my monthly salary here is about $1,300, right? And Christmas is coming. And so if anybody can join the Patreon and help provide long-term support, even at just $5 a month, those add up. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. So please consider joining the Patreon. Consider joining the Patreon or sponsoring a live. The PayPal is in the description. I'm working on a couple of Christmas projects. Oh, here's one. We're going to do Thanksgiving. And, you know, there are a lot of Ukrainians that make my life and work here possible, who I depend on for a lot of things. And I'd like to have them over for Thanksgiving, an American Thanksgiving. So I could use some sponsors for Thanksgiving. And Christmas dinners. And we'll live stream after those meals an opportunity to talk to real Ukrainians. I'll bring people in. So so what I'm saying is Christmas is coming and I'm shit broke. So if anybody can be helpful with that, the PayPal and Patreon info is there. In this time of uncertainty, my life here has never been less certain. So help make it certain if you can. Hey, Bob. Having some trouble? It's been busy lately, guys. Have you noticed? You know, we get a lot of, since the election night, we've had a lot of trolls. Average attendance here is usually about 200, and we've been running closer to 400. So that's very peculiar. I've always wondered, what does personal needs actually mean? You know, Maddie, for a long time, I used that statement in a live classroom setting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, points of observation, or personal needs? Like, oh, I need to go to the toilet, Mr. Alexievich. And so it just kind of stuck. Here, I guess it might mean... I have friends at the front line and I want to send them fresh-baked cookies. Can you help me do that? If anybody here can help me get some fresh-baked cookies to the front line, please let me know. I'm working on a cookie party thing where we're going to cook 100 dozen cookies and we're going to box them up and send them to the front line. So that kind of thing is happening. That's the thing, Eli. For anybody out of country, you can't help. I mean, the only thing that you can do is send some cash to help pay for things. And really, that stuff's like the Thanksgiving dinner is going to cost me a couple bucks. I tried ordering a turkey and I got an 8 kilogram turkey for about $35. So altogether, for 20 people, I figure I can do Thanksgiving for less than $200. And that'll probably be the same for Christmas. Now, as far as the cookie initiative, anybody that's in Ukraine that can help me bake cookies and get them to the front line, or breads, or, traditional Ukrainian kind of homemade stuff, please reach out to me. Please message me. Especially anybody who's got contacts in schools, because to go with the cookies, we're sending children's art projects. So as a reminder of what these guys are doing out there, messages of gratitude. I did reach out to Yulia. She's supposed to call me, and we're going to talk about it. Messages of gratitude, messages of remembrance, messages of solidarity, that kind of thing is what we're looking to do. I actually have pictures of some of the first art projects. Maybe I'll do a video talking about it. If you know Ukrainians, maybe, you know what, I'll do a video about it. Watch for a video on it, Maddie. So I confess, Yvonne, I don't know who Peter Thiel is. I don't know who that is. That name is not at all familiar to me, though I am a big fan of the color. Elon Musk is a spoiled, entitled, little rich kid who never once in his life innovated anything. He used the vast wealth that his family had acquired by exploiting the people of South Africa and their natural resources for 100 years. He used that vast wealth to buy innovation and then label it Musk and take credit for it. He is a fraud and a traitor, and he should be under investigation by a special prosecutor's office or a congressional inquiry for violations of the Logan Act, for interfering with American foreign policy by turning off Starlink in the middle of an attack on the port of Sevastopol twice. Not once, but twice. He's got the blood of Ukrainians on his hands. Oh, Peter Thiel, or Thiel, whatever it is. As far as I know, the guy is just a billionaire piece of shit who's trying to undermine American democracy to make us all poor so he can buy and sell us as slaves. And he put J.D. Vance in the White House. Or in Annapolis, anyway. Julian, I will remind you, Musk did not build a damn satellite internet. He bought a company that built a damn satellite internet and put his name on it. Little Red Sunflower, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is devastating to me that my fellow Americans could be this stupid. It is just stupid. It's beyond that they would take the most despicable, traitorous piece of shit and elect him president because he's a white man over a perfectly qualified black woman who is not a piece of shit. It's insanity. Absolute insanity. Okay, guys, we got 5 minutes left. So real quick before we end, thank you to Blue Ariel Silk, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Blue Ariel Silk joined the Patreon at a level where she gets a live sponsorship every month. And this is the one for November. I'll be doing those over the next week or so. Big thanks to the moderator team, Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, Jay, and Travis, best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Vanetta, of course. Vanetta, throw up the Google Doc share link, would you please? Vanetta manages the Google Doc share where you can get letters calling for the resignation of the Secretary General of the UN, Guterres, who should resign in disgrace for bowing to Putin the way he did at the BRICS summit. Letters to the Biden White House asking them to please give long-range weapons authorization deep into Russian territory and get the Ukrainians the weapons you promised them. That's all at the Google Doc share. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps public group on the Book of Faces, where all these lives get posted after the fact. And thank you to Lars, who has the Alexievich archive and the Discord server. So thank you all very much. So we got just a couple minutes left, guys. It's almost 1 a.m. here in beautiful uptown Kyiv. Final thoughts, questions, comments, points of observation, or personal need. Does anyone need to use the toilet? Please feel free. Oh my God, this office of efficiency, it's not a business. The federal government is not a business. It is there to take care of its people, to keep the water clean, to keep the streets safe, to keep the bridges from collapsing. They are not there to make money. They are not there to cut corners. Honest to God. Oh my God. These idiots, they're the damage that they are going to do is going to take us a lifetime to undo. If we even can. If we even can. Hypothetically, what work can Americans do while living in Ukraine? You can do anything, man. You can do anything you want. It really is a free country. I mean, look, they put up with me, and I run my mouth all the time. Well, thank you, Russell Kennedy. I always appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Nightshade, I'm not aware of any drone hits in the neighborhood here. And frankly, those fucking Iskanders, I mean, they could be miles away. But when they get blown out of the sky, the building shakes. And if they're anywhere in the neighborhood, holy shit. There was one time, I swear to God, the whole building shifted. Maybe a half inch. Like you're talking about a 9-story apartment complex where literally the whole building swayed. I'd say a solid centimeter and a half. Yeah, that was the one where it came down right in the park across the street here. Night, Bernard. It was loud. Normally I do sleep through things, but I did not sleep last night. Oh, Julian, if you have experience teaching English as a second language, I mean, just check LinkedIn. There's 100 job openings for you. There's easily 100 job openings. But it's a Ukrainian salary. Right? It's a Ukrainian salary. Well, I mean, you used to feel the towers sway. I don't know if you ever had breakfast at Windows on the World on the 108th floor at Tower 2. But on a windy day, boy, you felt it. I mean, that building moved. Yeah, LinkedIn in Kyiv. There's a lot of LinkedIn in Kyiv or folks in Kyiv whose LinkedIn profile is available in English. A lot. Was it yards, Dive Hard? Was it that much? Was it really yards? It could be. I mean, you felt it, man. Can one teach English without speaking Ukrainian? Webadev says yes, and I agree. There are lots. I mean, I know a number of foreigners who teach English and they do not speak Ukrainian. Not really. Now, some of them speak Russian. As a matter of fact, I would say almost all of them do speak Russian. Right? But that's probably more of a factor of being my age. Right? Like my social circle tends to be my age. So they're all Russian speakers, the Americans that came here and have been here for a while. But for me, when I was doing it, because I did it for a while, I just said that I would only work with students who were tested B1, B2. You know, Webadev, you're not wrong, right? Like, folks do want an American accent. But, dude, I'll tell you, man, there's a bunch of Ukrainians here who taught themselves English, who have the most extraordinary accents. There's one guy I know, you'd swear to God he was British. I call him Cambridge because he sounds like you would think he was British. Perfect Oxford English accent. Brilliant. Then you have the people who kind of learned British English and kind of learned American English, and they have this curious accent that is completely unique to them. There's one woman here, a comedian by the name of Aline. Her accent is the most mellifluous thing. It's like song. It's like a songbird. It's wonderfully rich, and it is not just American, not just British, but something unique to her. There's even a little. She speaks French too, so there's even a little French underscore there. Yeah, language is a miraculous thing. Language is an absolutely miraculous thing. So, guys, it is top of the hour. I'm going to call it a night. I'm deeply appreciative of everybody hanging out, and always good to talk to you all. There are exciting things, I think, happening on the Patreon. If you don't at least have a free Patreon account, get a free Patreon account. And if you can, I have lost some Patreon supporters. I was up to $1,400 a month, and I'm down to like $1,300 now, which is making life harder. So if anybody can help with any of that, please do. Well, B-Boy, I'm sorry you just got here. We're getting off the line. But the good news is these are all recorded. They are all posted to YouTube. And you can see the whole live there if you'd like. So thanks. Are you a beekeeper? Thank you, Yvonne. Good night, Richard. Night, Flippy. Oh, hey, Flip. Fitz, why aren't you a diplomat? Good night, Bobby. I'm done, truthful. It's late. I had rehearsal today. I published the news we are waking up to over on the Patreon. I did a couple videos. So anyway, I was up all night with the air alert. So no, dude, I'm done. I'm done. All right. Take care, everybody. Make it a great day.